Hey everybody, Brendan here. Welcome back to another Kings Indian Attack run video, whatever that means. We're playing against a Diaco or Dejako, who knows? So, we're getting some sort of I don't know what to call this variation with Bishop G4. Like the Bishop F5 is like the London. We could technically consider this to be a London, a little bit. So they go for C5, and since they're not reinforcing this diagonal, I want to open it, right? C6, we would maybe change our setup, maybe not. C4 is very common in these positions. And I'm thinking of knight C3. And I want to encourage either takes or push. Push, I'm happy to go back. I'm happy to waste a little bit of time. E5 is possible. So don't go E5 immediately, which is fair. The reason why it's fair is because if they do go E5, it could be overextended. So do I go knight D2, knight FD2, or bishop G5? I think bishop G5 is the way to go. And if they go H6, I'm happy to make the exchange. The bishop pair in this position matters a lot less than just trading some pieces off, because as we see, we have a lot less space than our opponent. So what we want to do here is trade off hopefully 2 sets of minor pieces. If we can play knight e4 and get this bishop, then I think we're extremely happy. I doubt they're going to allow that. But the same function would occur if they played something like knight e5, where I think we're extremely happy about it. And actually, I think we might even win material after knight e4. Maybe not win material, but we'd trade off so many pieces that we'd have to be better in that position. So I'm happy. I like these reverse Benoni positions quite a bit. I think they're fun to play, if anything. Knight e4, we get rid of their bishop pair advantage as well, which is awesome. We're happy about that. And we are definitely going to take that. It looks like it might not be a good bishop, but the thing is, that matters a lot less than the fact that we're trading stuff off. Right? This knight, I'm unsure where it wants to go. Like, it might want to go to e4. Oh, not f4. f4 would be a bad square. It might want to go to e4, but we always have to think about f5. I think f5 is generally an overextension in these positions, though. And this bishop, where does it want to go? The thing is, it's a little annoying because, like, sometimes you want to play e3 and then take. Ooh, e3 and then take. But here, maybe it's not as pleasant. Yeah, I think we do want to play knight d2, though. We do want to put a piece on d2, mainly because we want to cover e4. Because that square is just a little bit tender. Yeah, let's do that. If ever e4, we want to make sure we're able to take it. f4, we're not really worried about. f4, I actually have a funny looking idea. Like f3, g4 stuff to close things down. Doesn't look completely stupid there. Let's see here. The thing is, since this pawn is undefended, things become a little annoying. And now f4 might become stronger. So e3 would be great to play, but the bishop's in the way. And we need to keep this bishop on the board, I think. We could go rook b1, signaling b4. And I think even if we sack the pawn, we should probably go for it. Yeah, I think we should. And we actually do have some tricks in the position. Because if we go for b4, takes, it might look like it's actually defended enough times. And it technically is, but there's actually a tactical resource we have, which makes that not the case. And that's c5 if we can get it with check. So for example, b4, let's just say they waste the move, a6. b4, takes, knight takes, queen to b3, right? And the problem after queen b3 is if they play knight c6, we have c5 check. So after b4, takes, they can take with the pawn or the knight, but we can take on b7 as a result as well. Interesting. I never want to play f3 because that makes this bishop awful. Where does this guy want to go? It's a little difficult deciding. I think if they play f4, then we want to play knight back to f3. So we need to maintain that flexibility. And because of that, I think rook e1, so we can free up our queen, is probably the best bet. And f4 might look a little bit better now, but I'm hoping that knight f3 is a deterrent to that. As well as knight e4, by the way. The second they push that pawn, moves like that also come into effect. Now I want to play queen c2, just to get off this, like, not really, like, I guess it's a diagonal, but like, any time you see pieces kind of looking at each other like this, you have to ask, like, is there potential for tactical moves? And yeah, there could be. Like, the thing is, we want to play e3 or e4, but we can't. And that's a problem. So how do we solve that? Well, we have to move our queen. So rook ba might signal b5. I think this is completely misplaying the position, though, if they were to do it. So I'm going to let them if they decide to. And I'm looking at e4 here, or e3. We'll have to see. The thing is, e3, do I want to play e4 after or not? Queen d7. Queen d7. So I think they're trying to play for moves like f4 and bishop h3. e4, if they take en passant, do I take with the pawn? Or do I take somehow else? I'm not sure. And because I'm not sure if I should at all. So let me play queen a4 now. Because I'm noticing that they kind of made a weird move here that I might be able to take advantage of with queen a4. The thing is, f4 I think is still undesirable because of knight e4. And if they ever play something weird, I have b4 in the position now. b4 is kind of a funny looking move. But the idea is that after takes, okay, yeah, so they actually played this. So knight e4 does attack c5, which is nice. I'm not really too worried of moves like bishop h3. First off, I have bishop f3. I don't think I'd play that. But it's in the cards. Right now I'm attacking c5, and I think that's something to worry about. And here, there's almost tactical moves, like knight f6 check. But the problem is rook takes f6 does defend the knight. So now their queen's defended, so b4 doesn't work as well. So b4, if takes, they have knight takes. Which might be a problem. So f3 doesn't really feel right. Actually, maybe f3 is okay. f3 and then g4. This is a really, really strange position, but I think we can get away with this here. And the idea is, after bishop h3, we can go g4 and kind of force them into giving up their bishop. And our bishop. So our bishop's kind of sucky. But we do have funny ideas with just g4 here. And h3. And we're just going to like chill in the position. Because generally, the queen side is supposed to favor us. So our bishop sucks for a while. But the hope is we can make something out of it. We love our bishop, or our knight, sorry, though. Do we go for b4 now? Probably not. Our bishop's, again, really, really ugly. So we could try to make something of it. First off, I like retreating. And the idea of retreating is that I might want to go for some g5 one day. Like king h1, rook g1, and then g5. So queen c2 is like an all-rounder move. Okay. I'm just hoping we don't get absolutely blown out of the water here. Because when you have a bad piece like this, you got to be really careful. But I'm arguing that it can actually be freed with moves like h4 and g5 in the future. King h2 and bishop h3. Do we want to play h4 immediately or no? I don't think so. We might want to start with something like h3, but even still, we weaken some dark squares, which I don't know if we want to weaken. Now, this is kind of a risky move, but I think h4 is correct here. And they take. So what I want to do is I want to actually bring my pieces over to the h-file. Attacking on two flanks. Let's play... Should I play g5 here? Or should I play rook h1? Let's play rook h1. They take, and I'm just going to take back. And if they take, I can take with the rook. Here. Yeah, I like taking with the rook. And I can bring my other rook in, and all of a sudden we're getting a ton of play. This is a very strange position, but that's kind of what I like about these Benoni structures. Is sometimes you're like the games make absolutely no sense, but it's really fun. So I'm attacking the bishop. They can either defend it or something else. I don't know what else. I'm going to be playing rook g1, I think, no matter what. Yeah, rook g1 looks good. And they don't have king f7. That's actually really important because, yeah, well, sometimes that happens. Knight g5 check ends up winning the queen. So let's look at the analysis of this game. And I really want to see what the evaluation is after we play f3, because there's a chance, there's definitely a good chance that this move was a mistake. But there was like really interesting play with it, regardless. Okay, so we're at a disadvantage here. And I think it's because maybe these pawns weren't traded. I could be wrong on that. Usually when you get normal Benoni structures, they're traded, but knight e4, knight takes d6. a3. This position felt fine. This f5 was actually a reasonable attempt, I think. And I should have gone for b4 immediately. Yeah, that looks actually correct. And the idea behind going for b4 immediately is I don't think you can take because of queen a4 check. We're after knight c6. It's actually saying rook fb1, but is there a knight takes e5 here? Queen takes e5, bishop takes c6. Oh, you know what? There's not, because they can go to the second rank. So it doesn't quite work here. But you do get just crazy compensation. So this is something I probably should have seen, but that's okay. So rook to b1, a5. Actually, funny enough, I was looking at bishop d5 check. Followed by moving the knight. I just wasn't sure if the knight would, or the bishop would be offside, and it might be kicked around with something like knight to e7 in the future, especially if they play like an e4 after that to kind of keep my bishop offside. So I thought rook e1 and queen c2 may be better options. e4 is reasonable now. The only other thing I was considering is, do I ever take on c6? And this is a very, very scary thing to do. But it can be good under some circumstances. So like, for example, after queen a4 here, there's good reason to consider taking. I didn't do it, and maybe I should have. But the idea behind taking here is, although we weaken some light squares, we can actually just kind of cover them with moves like f3, g4, as mentioned before. So if they play like bishop h3, we kind of just ignore this actually, and we just start pawn hunting on this side of the board. And this knight's like, it's got a beautiful square. It looks a little sketchy, but when the knight comes to e4, we should recognize that we're totally fine. It's a really hard move to play though. So knight e4 instead, b6, and wow. I was mentioning how I thought there was tactical possibilities with knight f6 here, but I actually missed the more obvious move, knight takes c5, winning a pawn this way instead, because the knight is actually semi-defended here. I actually made a short about this recently, where a unprotected piece isn't just something that's not being defended at all, it's also something that is attacked and defended equally. And this is something that is attacked and defended equally. So if we can add an attacker, like knight takes c5, then sometimes it can lead to tactical possibilities that end in our favor. And that's the case here. So I played f3 instead. Computer hates it. Okay, that's interesting. I'm not really surprised that it hates it. Like, positionally, this just looks disgusting. But I thought it'd be fun. h4. Computer's starting to like it now, actually. Computer says, like, it's awful here, and then when I play h4, it's okay. So I'm not really sure what that's about. King f2, h5, and now we're just better. So yeah, that's the good thing about these positions, is they're really, really difficult to play sometimes. One thing to watch out for is I don't think you can get away with this. G3 check, and well, looks like they might even get the file first, like after king e1, king g7, king d2, rook h8, or even queen g6 or something. Looks like they have full control and this beautiful pawn on g3. So that's why you have to take on g4 there, but that's totally fine, because after rook takes g4, we're bringing the other rook to one of these files, and it's kind of over, actually. For example, after rook g1, we're threatening bishop f3, and I don't see a good way to stop it. Because if you go and do something like bishop f5, we have bishop h3 check. And where does the king go, right? Because if king f7, I mentioned before, there's knight g5 check. If bishop g6, we just win the queen. So we're actually just winning the queen by force here, which is nice. And yeah, so I guess like the one thing to learn from this game is that not all of these Benoni positions require those two trades. They might require other things. Like, I think, okay, so it's actually mentioning h3, which is something I was hesitant to play. But I think the idea here, let's see. The idea is knight d2, castles, a3, and I guess b4, b6, king h2. I'm not really sure why that's popping up, because the evaluation is getting better and better for black as we go down the line. Like, it would be nice if we can get some sort of e3 played, but I'm not really sure how good it is here when we have to take with the bishop already traded. So maybe bishop g5 wasn't the most accurate. Maybe we can play e3 here. Knight d7. The problem is this pin is actually quite reasonable, because if we take, then they might be able to take with a knight, but I guess this is also okay for us, right? Because they don't really have a good way to maintain a piece on d4, and if they take on f3 a bunch, then that also alleviates a ton of pressure in the position, even if we can't get d4 or something in. Like, I don't even know if it matters. Yeah, if 95, we just take on b7, actually. So we should be fine. That's the thing. Some of these like online engines that are like lower depth, they kind of overvalue space in an interesting way. Like, we're looking at some positions later on. For example, when I played h4, where it said it was like awful for white, like before you play the move. And then when you play it, it's like, oh yeah, actually, you know what, it's okay. So it's kind of like a funny thing. And yeah, like even top moves, it just goes to equality. So, yeah, one thing to learn from the game: don't make your bishop awful. Take pawns instead. That's always good. But I missed that, so that's just bad form on my part. I hope you guys enjoyed. Regardless, still a fun game to play. You know, with the King's Indian attack, we aim for messy positions. So that's the name of the game. I will see you guys tomorrow with another episode of the King's Indian attack. And actually, we're almost done the series. When we get to 2000, be our first 2000, I think, or get to 2000, something like that. Then it'll be done, and we will be switching some openings around and doing something a little different. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right.